Hey guys, it's Not Your Average Joe. I'm back again, and today we are going to be going through how to make a good crossover fan fiction. This has been a question that several people have asked me over the course of the year or so that I've been writing on fanfiction.net, and so I guess this is a little overdue, but that's what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna take you through the thinking process of mine on how I birth an idea for a crossover fan fiction, how I fine tune it, and when I think it's ready for release. I'm going to teach my 7 rules that I have. I don't stray from these under any circumstances. They're the rules that keep me sharp. They're the rules that I abide by when I make a fan fiction crossover. And if the Red Swordsman is anything to go by, I guess they're good rules. So I'm sorry, I'm crazy. I'm laughing at my own poor humor. But I'll stop boring you and I'll get on with why you're here today. So, guide to a good crossover. All right. So rule number 1: you have to pick a world, and you have to pick a set of rules that you're gonna stick with. Right? You can't flip flop back and forth between the two world rules. You can combine the two world rules, but you have to keep up continuity. Stories without continuity are just, quite frankly, they're not worth the read, because it's it's too easy for the characters if you just change the rules to suit them as they need it. Like, for example, in my story, The Red Swordsman Toe of Aincrad, I never broke the rules of the world of Sword Art Online. Um, because and that's a story that's a little bit easier because you've got virtual reality in that world. You can do just about anything in virtual reality. But I didn't break the rules of the virtual reality world. I stuck with those rules, and I didn't stray from that. I didn't just have the Toa magically popping out of the video game to solve all of Mataris and Kirito's problems, because that would make for a really short and really boring and, quite frankly, really stupid story. So continuity is key when you're writing a good fan fiction. And like I said before, you can definitely, if you can figure out a way to combine the rules of two worlds and keep them constant, bravo, good on you. But do not have the rules just changing back and forth to suit your character whenever they need it, because that's going to make for a really, really crappy story. And people aren't going to enjoy reading it. And quite frankly, one of the most important things that you can ever do as a writer is make sure that you're writing a story that everyone's going to enjoy. All right, rule number 2: you have to make sure that the environments and the people in them are compatible with one another. How do you do that? Well, going back to the Toe of Aincrad, or even the Slayer of Aincrad, what happens is, instead of going into Alfheim Online, they go into Element 6 Online and Inner Magic Online, respectively, for each story. This allows them to interact with the Bionicle and the people from Fairy Tail and all that. But it doesn't have I didn't have the people from Fairy Tail and from Bionicle just popping in and out of the Amusphere or the Nerve Gear or whatever, because that would just completely break down the continuity. Because the world that Reki Kawahara's created is that it's just humans and everyone's regular in the real world, but in the virtual world you can do just about anything. So that's where I was able to, in those stories, that's where I was able to make the environments work together, so that the people would be able to meet in a manner that was natural to the continuity of the story. Rule number 3 is one of the most important of the 7 rules that I have, and that is to make sure you are enjoying your work. All right, because if you're not enjoying your work, it will bleed over into your writing. People will notice. People will be like, "Hey, man, why aren't you putting as much effort into this? Why aren't you? What happened?" And they're gonna lose interest. You're gonna lose your audience, and you're not gonna have fun. You're gonna be making yourself miserable. The big question you have to ask yourself when you finish each chapter is: would I read this if someone else had written it? Would this be worth my time to read it? Because if it's not, then you either need to take a break and let your audience know that you're going to take a break if possible, because people, this really irks me when people just stop writing out of nowhere and leave no explanation. It's like, come on, guys, we've been, it's like you owe it to your audience to finish your work, or explain to them why you can't finish it, or tell them why you need a break. And taking a break is not a bad thing whatsoever. And I've taken a break a couple times, and my writing's been better for it. But you have to be enjoying your work, otherwise people will notice, and it's going to affect your writing poorly, and you're just gonna hurt yourself as a writer. And that's and you know what? This rule is just for writing in general. It doesn't even really necessarily apply to crossovers. This is just for anything you write. If you want other people to enjoy it, and that's the main job of an author, is to create a story that other people are enjoying. If you're not enjoying it, other people won't. They just won't. And so, yeah, rule number 3, very, very important. Follow it, and I can almost guarantee you that you will create stories that are truly, truly wondrous. All right, on for rule 4. And this one might irk some of you. This is a personal rule of mine, and that is romance should not be the main point of your crossover or your fan fiction in general. This is just for me personally. If you like writing romance fan fictions, then okay, then ignore this part. But if you're looking to get a little closer to my style of writing, then I urge you to listen to this part. Romance is always a key point, but it should not be the main point, if that makes sense. So in the Toe of Aincrad, Mataris and Shinon was a big part of it, but it wasn't the main point. It wasn't the main goal. Mataris' goal the entire time was not, oh, I need to hook up with this girl. It was, I need to get my family home. I need to get my family safe. Shinon helped him do that. And that's part of why that's a big part of why their relationship came to be the way that it was. But it was not the main point. And I like to use the romance parts as a complement to the story, but not as the main point, because it's just I don't know. It's like you want to do romance, you're better off investing that energy into your own life, in my opinion, instead of putting it down on paper, or putting it up on the internet, whatever. But as I said at the beginning of this is just a personal thing. It's a personal tool of mine. It's a personal rule of mine. You don't have to follow it. You don't have to follow any of these. But if you want to write a little closer to my style, then I highly recommend that you pay attention to this rule, because if you put too much energy into the romance, your audience is going to be like, wait a minute, I thought this was about the world of Aragon and the world of fairy tale coming together, not about these two people just being all lovey-dovey all the time. Where's the action at? You know? So yeah, there it is. That's rule number 4. Make of it what you will. All right, rule 5 is one of my favorites, and that is, if something is wrong with the original story, go ahead and fix it, but make sure you fix it in a way that could have happened in the original as well. This ties back into what I was saying with the first rule. Once you have a set of rules and the world that you're in, you have to stick by those rules. And I'll give you an example out of the Red Swordsman story. In chapter 3, I think, 2 or 3, I think it was, Mataris saves Sachi's life. Unfortunately, the rest of the Moonlit Black Cats are still dead. But he's able to save Sachi because of a unique skill that he had. Now, I didn't break the rules of SAO by giving him some magical power that can just, like, he snaps his fingers and she just teleports away to safety and everything's sunshine and rainbows. No, Kirito and Mataris still had to suffer through through a tremendous loss, because that's just part of the storyline. That was part of the continuity. But they were able to make that small change because I gave Mataris a unique skill called Dragon Blood. It enables him to have free motion. He was able to use that to save her, which could have well happened in the original. It just didn't, because the original author felt that was the way the story should go, and I respect that. I just felt like things could have gone a lot better for Kirito if A, he had a friend with him to shoulder the responsibility of clearing the game, and B, if he had been able to save Sachi, because that tormented him a lot. So if you think something is off with a story, that's kind of what fan fictions are for. They're to put your spin on someone else's work, make yourself and make others that are like-minded with you happy. It's like the job of any good writer is to make their audience happy with the story that they're reading, and that has to happen in a way that isn't, what's the word I'm looking, it wasn't outlandish. It has to repeat myself earlier, it has to have been possible in the first place, but you just change the situation a little bit. So They have rule 5. It's great to fix stuff if you think it's wrong, but just do it in a way that could have happened in the first place. Okay, rule number 6. For those of you that are regular readers on my profile, I have a feeling you might not like this one, but I'm gonna say it anyways. Use regular action and cliffhangers. Yeah, I said it. Use lots of cliffhangers. You know why? Because if you leave the chapter on a cliffhanger, the people are going to be left with the question, what happened next? Play on people's curiosity. That's half of how you get someone to come back and keep reading your stories. Now, it's like if you start, there is a science to it though. Like if you make each cliffhanger exactly the same, you kind of make the start of each next chapter the same. So you gotta make each cliffhanger different from the last. You can't just do the same thing over and over again and expect people to keep coming back, because then they're going to develop the sense of, oh, I already know what's coming back next. And by the time you're ready to drop the big plot twists, there's going to be nobody to read it. But so yes, use cliffhangers. I don't care how many hate letters I get for saying that. If you wanna keep your audience coming back and keep growing your audience, you will use cliffhangers and action scenes. You will use action scenes because how do I put this? A story without a crossover without a good action scene, not a good action scene, without regular action scenes is like, how do I put this? It's like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles without their weapons. I'm not really sure how else to put that. You just don't see the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles without their katana, without their sai, without their nunchuck, without the staff. That's something that they just always have. And a good story always has to have some kind of action going on. And I don't mean fist fighting all the time. If it's an emotional story, then you need to have catharsis scenes regularly. You need to keep people coming back. You need to give them a reason to keep coming back. Like if you just use cliffhangers, you're just going to make people angry. But if you make it worth the cliffhanger, if you make it worth the wait, then people know, oh, hey, this is a good story. This is a good way to keep coming back. So yes, rule number 6: use action and use cliffhangers. All right, final rule is rule 7, and I'll just let you know right off the bat. I'm sure some of you already know this. Is that I have a hard time accepting criticism, but that's a rule that I have to follow. And if anybody wants to grow be a better writer, you have to accept constructive criticism. And I'm not talking about where people are like, "Oh, you freaking suck. You're just copying other people's ideas." It's like, well, this is fanfiction.net, so yeah, we kind of are. But if I'm talking about when someone gives you a solid reason for why your writing needs to be better. Like I used to, I have a problem with ignoring the rules of grammar sometimes. I also have some spelling errors that I really need to get better at catching myself with those. And people have repeatedly pointed this out to me. And I am trying to catch those. I am trying to grow my skills as a writer, because I don't want to disappoint those people. I don't want to disappoint the people that come back to read my stories. And if you want like I said, if you want to grow as a writer, if you want to have people appreciate the work that you put into them, you have to listen to when they have sound advice to give you. And this is hypocritical coming from me, because I really struggle with people criticizing my work, because I work really hard on my stories. I always do. I always have. I always will. But it's something that I have to do, and not every rule that I follow I like, but I recognize that they're necessary in order for me to grow as a writer, and I hope you do too. I really hope that I guess I'm wrapping this video up here, but I really hope that this video has helped you. It's up to you to grow as a writer, even if you don't do crossovers. There's a few rules in here that are just that are good for writing in general, but yeah, I appreciate you guys coming out to watch this. And before I forget, I hope everybody had a happy Easter, and God bless all of you. Until next time, this is Not Your Average Joe, signing out.